This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to PTBN's NBA Team Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Andrew Riche. I'm joined right here by Adam Murray. Adam, we just take our holiday. We're celebrating the Christmas schedule. They had a good slate of games for once. And we come back, and there's just drama and fighting and trading and pissing and moaning going on all over the National Basketball Association.
I mean, I don't know why they couldn't just have a nice, simple, quiet
New
time.
Year to them, huh? And it's way meaner than the old them. Jimmy Butler didn't take any time to get started on pissing and moaning about what's to come.
It's funny how Jimmy doesn't want to trade. That's all made up, and then Jimmy wants to trade. And
you didn't believe his agent, Adam? He's on First Take telling the truth. What do you mean?
Yeah, I know, and that aged well. The agent's take.
So we could dive into this. Unless you had some other like top.
No, we're starting with the good New Year vibes of Miami just kind of imploding at the seams.
Their superstar, and then one team fired their coach, and a giant fight, But yeah, let's just go one by one. The Jimmy Butler thing. This has been brewing for a long time. There was that offseason post-mortem press conference where Pat Riley told Jimmy Butler in so many words to shut it. You could tell probably there was some uneasiness there because there were rumblings about Butler wanting to get out, and but there was no confirmation from either side, and a deal never actually happened in the summer. He was playing all right in the first quarter of the season, I would say. I don't have his numbers in front of me. If I had to guess, it's somewhere around like 18, 7, and 4, something in that range. But for Jimmy in Miami, that's probably the lowest output he's had. Then the rumors started to surface last month where the agent denied it vehemently. The Pat Riley came out and made a statement, said they're not trading him. Nobody believed it. Everybody believed what Shams Charania had reported at first. Then Jimmy just starts to sandbag it. He starts to just have games where he's like just taking terrible shots. He only had 9 points in 2 straight games. You could just tell the energy's not there. Then he has a press conference where kind of similar to the one James Harden had, if you remember that one, was when he was in Houston about 4 years ago, where he just basically let it all out and said, I want out.
Yeah, and then he wants to be anywhere but
I want to find my joy is the way he put it.
Yeah.
Just dog whisperer, I want out. That's all it is. I want to be traded without saying it.
It's one of those where's the that escalated quickly, and basically I don't understand why. Like, okay, we're going to suspend him for 7 games, which is completely random. Like, he's never going to play for Miami again.
I'm going to be honest, Adam. I was surprised at the suspension by the team directly related to the comments. That's what surprised me.
Yeah,
a lot of times just coddling of the superstar when they're unhappy like that and they air out grievances and say, I want to be traded. Sometimes you see them like kind of like be load managed, or the team sort of protects the value of the player. This was not the case. Miami punished Jimmy Butler. That was what surprised me.
Which will lead to grievances and filing.
Oh, Players Association's on it already. All right? They're already on it.
Yeah, which it makes no sense, because very rarely, if ever, do you have GMs calling out their superstars and then, this whole thing. But the reality is, like, Miami's not a good team this year, if they were winning, it would be a lot different. And we had mentioned, like, this team doesn't look built to be contenders. And then with the tax deal and teams not wanting to, Miami's not going to be like, sure, we'll take Zach Levine and his terrible contract. Like, they're not going to do that. So
they are not interested. Yeah, I agree with you. They are not interested in a swap for swap thing where they're still past the second apron. They want to get under. They want to kind of start fresh where they can just have space to add someone different in the offseason along with Hero and all the other guys they have, Rozier, Khalil Ware, Duncan Robinson on one more year of that big money. Like they have an idea in mind of the future, and bam. But
no,
that's not the idea. They don't want to get a big contract in return. I agree with you.
Yeah, they don't want Bradley Beal, and it's like, well, they're not interested in Andrew Wiggins. It's like, well, then who would you take? Like, there's nobody's going to be offering you, 4 first-round picks, and here's like a Dyson Daniels and some super. Nobody's going to be offering those types of packages for him, especially with that salary, because nobody has to mix up. So it really comes down to is who can anybody even make a deal with him? Because they don't want half the deals. You think like Portland will be like, yeah, we want Jimmy Butler. Yeah, I could only see one situation, but do you see anybody who would?
I look at the number side of it. So he has a player option of $52 million next summer. That's a big part of this because Butler indicated to Miami, I'm opting out and I'm not coming back, which basically facilitated the situation we're in now as we speak, where a deal is going to get done within the next weeks or month or whatever before the deadline. It's $49 million for this one. So if you're Miami and you're past the second apron, what you're thinking is, okay, what can we do to take only 70% of that money? Which, if I'm doing the math right, is somewhere in the range of about 30 to 33 million. They have contracts that other teams could probably swap 33 million in. This one's a little bold, but I'll just throw it at you.
No, they can't. Nobody can do that.
There's one. But
but nobody has. They have to give back 48 million or 47 million to stay within their respective tax lane. Because you're not going to have Brooklyn saying, we'll give you Ben Simmons straight up.
No, they're going to want picks in return. But the thing is, I can see Houston pulling it off, but Jalen Green has to be in the deal. That's the problem.
Jalen Green can't be in the deal the way his contract is set up. And why would they do it? I don't see Houston wanting to rock the boat that much.
Yeah, or Houston can trade Smith, Brooks, and some picks. That's enough.
Why would you offer picks for Jimmy Butler?
Well, you could give. Oh, why would you give picks to Miami for Jimmy Butler?
Yeah.
Because Miami is in a situation where they want to get rid of him, but the Rockets might feel like they're one step away from winning it, and they just need a veteran leader. You're swapping one veteran for another between Brooks and Butler, and Smith just broke his wrist.
Yeah, so but why would you offer picks on top of that?
It's interesting, and also I'm only thinking about that, Adam, because Houston's one of the only very few teams with a war chest. Like they can actually pull it off. The Thunder could pull it off. We talked about that before, and you laughed me out of the podcast, but I think it could happen. I don't think Oklahoma City is going to probably want to do it. I don't think they want to mess with their chemistry. The
question is, can Oklahoma City do it?
Adam, they have so many picks. I think they could just do it based off.
It's not about the picks. It's about the salary matching.
Hartenstein. Once you get Holmgren back, you fit him in there.
No, because Hartenstein is the reason they needed to go. They needed him.
And let me be fair, Hartenstein has played really well for the Thunder in place of Holmgren.
So it makes no sense to give up Hartenstein, and outside of him, you'd have to give Dort, Joe, Aaron Wiggins.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, that's why people are like, why did they give Aaron Wiggins and Joe that new money? That's why. So they can
Kenrick Williams. You're not going to do 4 for 1 because
you've
got your whole bench. Giving up Hartenstein, that's not a. Why would you give the person? Because they specifically went out to get him due to the need of a lack of size.
Well, here's the thing too. We can handicap this pretty quickly because it's going to be playoff teams. Playoff teams are going to want Jimmy. What about Memphis?
I don't think they.
Ja Morant for an AC joint injury. It's a similar injury that took him out for the whole year when they were tanking last year. I would bet that Morant will be back in a month, but Maybe you freak out and you trade Smart and this one and this one. They have a lot of.
Again, they are over the cap, so they're looking to get under the tax, period. So they're not gonna neither team is going to want to take on more money in that trade. Therefore, that could not possibly work.
I don't think the Clippers is possible because that would have to involve Kawhi, and the Heat are not going to take Kawhi, a broken down Kawhi Leonard. By the way, Kawhi Leonard is ramping up to come back, if you could believe that.
Allegedly.
Right off the heels of the lawsuit where his handler got fired by the Clippers, and he was trying to. The Clippers are claiming that he was blackmailing them. And when they stopped giving him money, that he sued and said that they screwed up the injury management for Kawhi. So that's a mess. Also accused them of tampering in 2019, which almost everyone in America believed was going on anyways. It's like, yes, thank you for saying the quiet part out loud, guy who handled Kawhi Leonard's free agency. Other team, I mean, there's a bunch of other ones. The Phoenix has been rumored for a long time.
But nobody wants Beal, and that's the only person
Boston,
they would move.
Not a chance. Philadelphia, maybe.
No, because they don't have anybody. You'd have to trade Paul George.
That's what I was about to say. What did they trade Paul George?
Why would they do that?
Because Paul George is a shell of himself right now.
So here's sort of my theory. What's to stop Detroit from giving a low ball? We'll give you Tobias Harris and Hardaway Jr. And
they just lost Jaden Ivey with a broken leg.
And like Simone Fontecheco to make the salaries work or whatever. Or they don't even have to. They could just take back the money and say, okay, Jimmy, we want, are you willing to teach these young guys a winning culture, like hard work, and just have them sort of be a coach, because no playoff team is going to do it. And Jimmy will get them probably, into the play-in game, which is what Detroit wants.
Here's the problem with that one. I know you're going to bristle at this. Jimmy Butler has a wish list, and I don't think Detroit's on the wish list. But
nobody's on the wish list other than, my wish list is Dallas. Dallas has no picks for you. Golden State can only get rid of Kuminga and Wiggins, and they're not going to want to. They don't want to give up Wiggins, and they don't want to give up Kuminga.
What about Minnesota again?
Minnesota to give Randall and
Reed, who's got a player option, so that's risky for Miami.
Why would you give Naz Reid? Because if you're looking to sign him, so you'd have to give Randall and like Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real right here. He's getting moved. Where he's going, I don't know. I think Orlando is possible. That's another one I thought of because of the cap room he has. And the injuries. Remember, Mo Wagner also tore his ACL. Like, what dumb luck that Magic had. But they're still good. They're still 6 games above 500. They're firmly out of the play-in.
Jalen Suggs had to be wheelchaired out due to back spasms.
That was crazy. I was joking about how he was balding, but now I'm wondering, is he like on Medicare? Now, listen. Back spasms are a real thing no matter what age you are. They are crippling and horrible. So, like, I can understand that. Now, when Paul Pierce asked to be wheelchaired out because he had to take a crap, that's different. But that's a whole another thing. So let's get out of this very negative story, because I think we dove around the league about Jimmy Butler's whereabouts.
Go into the positivity of Mike Brown?
Yeah, about Mike Brown getting fired by the Kings. So we talked about Jaden Ivey, and as an aside, he broke his leg when Cole Anthony accidentally ran into it. It was a freak accident. It was not malicious. It sucks. And I hope Ivey comes back better than he was coming off of, where he was probably playing his best basketball, and the Pistons are actually in the play-in scenario, even though they're under 500 right now, but they're playing better. But they were playing the Kings, and I watch League Pass now, and I was playing this game with my friend where I have this late night game that I love to play when the Kings are at home, is how are they going to blow this game? Because I always notice that when the Kings play at home, and they're always the last game because they're on the West Coast and all that, in the fourth quarter, they always fall apart. They cry to the referees. There's lack of communication on offense, and De'Aaron Fox would chuck up shots, and they would somehow blow whatever game that they were playing and lose. And the same thing happened against Detroit, and De'Aaron Fox stupidly fouled Jaden Ivey when he was taking a 3, bumped him, he hit it, and he got a 4-point play, and they won. Mike Brown called it he didn't say his name, but everyone knew what he meant. He called out De'Aaron Fox for fouling the shooter. he had a talk with Fox at the shoot around in the morning. He had a presser, like kind of like a makeshift presser,
Yeah, the daily your
the daily
daily
thing,
media
right, in the gym, and
avail.
he's driving to the plane so that they can go play the Lakers on the road, and he gets told by Vivek Ranadive that he's fired.
It's
Uh,
just this is the
yeah,
problem with just dysfunctional franchises.
that's a
Ev-
bad look. Yeah.
It's and then you have nobody standing up for anything. And Mike Malone was like, "Yeah, that happened to me too." That's what happens when you have a shitty uh, upper management and
I
ownership
think he
group.
called it. I think he called it gutless or classless. One of the two.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Jets. It's like, well, it was everyone else's problem. Everyone else it's like, well, bad owners are just bad owners, and like we knew the roster was the way that was constructed. We had said, and I believe everyone had said, this team isn't going to be better with DeRozan, but if they fell in love with him and they fell in love with this idea and they can make it work. No, they can't make it work because they're horrible on defense and they're undersized, and it obviously didn't. Yes, you could say there was weird substitutions and minute rotations and whatnot, but the roster just wasn't built for this. And when you have a GM and an owner who is like, yeah, we're going all in, this is us going all in as we can because we think this is the missing piece. Well, yeah, it's not their fault.
So here's the problem with the whole situation. Because of the proximity of the Fox flub and the criticism by Mike Brown, it's so easy to point at that's why Mike Brown got fired. And it might get written in the history books that that's what happened. But we know this, Adam. All firings by a head coach are a convergence of multiple factors, not necessarily all the coach's fault.
No, this was again,
but yeah, did he make bad choices? Yes, X's and O's wise. He didn't play his bench enough. He was playing starters way too much, and that's why they would sub out like Fox and Sabonis, and they would get absolutely murdered. It's not a coincidence that with Doug Christie, who's now the interim coach, they're playing Trey Lyles more. They're playing Keon Ellis more because you got to play other guys so that you can give the starters a little bit of blow and have them come out fresh. I still question, however, whether or not we have a resolution to the De'Aaron Fox got his way part. I can see a part 2 to this where Fox actually might just ask out of here.
And especially then you'll have what is it? DeMarcus Cousins was like, yeah, this happened to me too. That franchise just has they're not properly run, and this comes down to again.
It just takes one trade demand. That's all it takes.
And they could get the good thing is they can get a haul to build that team
back. Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
They can go whichever direction they want to do something. However, this was again with the Jets, just comparing apples to oranges. They didn't want to give Mike Brown a renew. They didn't want to renew his contract. And there was a big squabble about that. It's like, well, he was just the coach of the year. He just got you to the playoffs. What are you doing? They didn't want to re-up him. Like, they wanted to get rid of him last year. The same thing with the Jets. The Jets owner didn't.
I wonder if there was a little bit of lack of confidence amongst the players, and that's why the owner was, or Monty McNair was a little gun shy about giving Brown the extension. That's what I wonder. Because it's strange that he didn't get the extension. It is strange.
It was we didn't want to give it to you, so therefore everything that goes wrong, why did we give it to him? Why did we give it to him? We should have gotten rid of him. We wanted to. We talked ourselves out of it. Why did we talk ourselves out of it? That's what I believe it is. Is it the right idea? No, but again, I'm just waiting for them to fire Malone in Denver for the same reason. It's like, well,
was Fox. Let me ask you this. I'll just ask you straight up. It's not a back and forth. Was Fox in the wrong for this?
No, and he's done everything right.
He did fuck up that last play. He did.
I thought you meant wrong in the whole.
No, I do mean both.
Oh, it was just a dumb play, and players do dumb plays. It's it was a stupid foul, and I thought you meant was he wrong in the whole being in the forefront of it.
Do you think he was like a covert in the situation, him and Monk, because him and Monk are tight, and said get him out of here and made a phone call?
No. I believe, and I still stand firm, McNair and Vivek were like, DeMar is, we've seen him play. He is the missing piece. If we have him in, who cares how bad our defense is? We'll just be like Indiana, and we will get him the last shot. He is Mr. Clutch. That's the missing piece. This will take us far. I think they honestly believed it. And when DeRozan didn't fit, and then everything, like I said, everything else, once you start looking at the negative side for everything, it will become much clearer for you.
They're 3 games under 500. They're actually only 1 game behind the Suns, who they've had injury problems. So, you want to hear my hot take about the Suns now?
They're a mess.
No, they kind of are, but that's besides the point. I think those 3 don't like each other. And that every time they're all together, one of them fakes an injury.
It's not that.
Like, they get all 3. Bradley Beal falls on his hip. Ow, I'm out. Like, what's going on here? Why can't we play all 3?
Bradley Beal was just a terrible trade, and his no trade clause is what essentially kills him.
I think that's why the Suns are going to take a swing at Butler, and they might just go for it. Like, Butler.
So they're going to give up Booker?
That it sounds dumb on the surface, but yes.
No.
Like,
no.
They'll listen to Durant. Durant says, if you give me Jimmy, I'll make it work, kind of thing.
Well, Durant says that with everybody. Jimmy's choices are limited. Sacramento's choices are limited.
They're limited, but they're more expanded than Miami's. Miami, they can't just talk to everyone in America.
Sacramento is better. If you get Fox, you could trade him in the, they're better off waiting to the draft.
My problem with Fox is that Fox probably will be incentivized to not play on a really good team because he's going to probably want to play on those teams with empty calories so that he can just absolutely ball out and average 35 points a game or something like that to close out the season and try to get all in.
There's a difference between like that and then wanting to win and be a part of a thing. And
I don't think Fox cares anymore. That's the problem.
I don't know. We will.
It's a good discourse. It is, because I don't know where his head is at. Man, he's a hothead. Fox is too. Like he is sitting there getting technicals, flagrant fouls. Like he's just going out on a lurch. Like every single time I watch him, he just seems very, very intense. And he seems very mild-mannered in interviews, but you never know about players. Some players, once they get on the court, the intensity picks up a notch.
See, again, Fox knows it's his last big contract because you see Lillard and Beal and even Jimmy Butler and teams are going, this guy at this age is not worth this much. Even look at Harden. Harden was like, yeah, I want my $50 million, and he wound up taking 37. You think
that's what happens when the GMs and the players are on the same game plan. What's the new strategy, Adam? We've talked about it for 3 years. Sign now, trade later. Well, now we're at the trade later phase.
Well, that makes total sense of why Oklahoma City gave these bloated contracts to Isaiah Joe and Lou Dort money, and Toronto gave all those insane
were low
deals.
ball, low risk extensions. Jimmy Butler's, when they did it in 2022, was not low risk. That was high risk. You're getting a guy in his late 30s, $50 million a year.
Yeah, but that's we need to give we need to give an Emmanuel Quickly $35 million. Kuminga needs to 35 because we need that money to trade salaries because
Joel Embiid's supermax in his 30s.
Jimmy Butler comes available.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're Oklahoma City. We could fit him in. Yeah, but we have to trade 7 players. Same thing with Memphis. Oh, we like him, but we're also over the cap, so we too can't spend money. So we can do a 6-for-1. And Miami's like, what are we going to do with 6 players? We can't take on 6 players. So the deal would have to become like this 18-team deal to get it to work, which it isn't impossible. I mean, like you said, it just takes one GM, one owner to fall in love with this idea. I just, I don't know where he can go. And if you have him not on Miami, that Miami roster, they can be mad all they want. Like, they're not going to go far with that roster. I think, Terry Rozier, that was there. We didn't make any trades this offseason because he was our deal. That didn't work out well. He hasn't fit.
And the Heat, even with Jimmy's issues, they've had a kind of a weaker schedule actually in the last few games because they played the Pelicans and but Bam's looked pretty good. Tyler Hero's looked great. I do want to ask you because it's not a huge topic because the suspensions were already laid down, and I thought the suspensions were fair. What did you think of the fight between Amin Thompson and Tyler Hero?
I actually was one of those guys. Strangely, was able to watch that one live, and I was like, "What is going on?"
In
And
that
then
situation, Adam, listen. I'm not, I lived on a street, but I'm not from the street. Okay. In that situation, Tyler Hero probably said something that pissed him off so bad. He's like, "All right, it's on," and he just
he did,
ragdolled.
but we know who you are. We know you went to overtime elite for 2 years at a high. So you weren't even in high school. Like you're. What streets are you from if you're spending the day at overtime elite?
And these are both very, very good players. They miss the Rockets miss Amen Thompson. I don't think Hero got suspended. I don't think he got suspended for a single game.
No, he just got fined, and
Mhm.
but Tom's like,
but
what
to
are
be
you?
fair, like yeah, it was a questionable decision. The bench is clearing. I understood it. It was in a dead ball too, so nobody got suspended a game for leaving this during. Nobody did that, so it actually made sense. So it was an unfortunate situation. We've seen a few kind of oddball situations. I saw Fred VanVleet get ejected again for touching a referee. This is the second time this year. I wonder if
That's
the Rockets are
why
just a touchy-feely team.
they're just a little disciplinary issues, and um,
I
but
like their fight. I like how much the Rockets fight. They're going to be a good team in the
they
playoffs.
are
But
extremely gritty, and that was a question mark of could they bounce back, and yes, they have. So there's no need for them to rush this timeline if they have all these assets, and let the let it play out, because if you add something in that messes up everything, because let's say, like you said, they trade for Jimmy Butler. Okay, that marginalizes both Green and Şengün because they both
mhm.
need the ball. If Jimmy Butler's be like, yo, I'm going to bring the ball up. I'm going to take 25 shots.
Yes, and in
Um,
crunch time, Şengün and Brooks and Green all like to touch it.
so
So that yeah.
Jimmy would take that away. So why would you, like we saw this with Minnesota, you had the formula and then they change up the formula and they haven't been able to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought them up. The Wolves are kind of strange. Like there are games like they had this wild one. It was actually against the Rockets where they were down huge. They made a comeback playing defense down the stretch, and Anthony Edwards, because he's a great player, step back three with less than like 10 seconds to go and they win the game. But then they have some games where they don't play well, they ask Edwards, "Hey, why didn't you get enough shots up?" And he just says very transparently, "They're double teaming me constantly. I have to make the right play. I got to pass if I'm double teamed."
I
And
noticed
it's tough.
the same thing we had I've noticed with Utah, because it, like, well, marketing got his big deal and his numbers have dipped, and what's going on with him? It's like you watch him, it's like, oh, he's the only one they're double teaming. He's the only one they're making take tough shots because nobody else in that team is really
Mhm.
doing anything. So, oh, they've given him his notice, and
This happened
that's a
early in the year with Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's numbers were tame in the first month. People like, what's going on? What's wrong? It's like, well, they're trying to feel out the balance between him and Towns. Well, then Towns starts absolutely killing people with like how many times has he gotten 20 rebounds in a game, lad? Like in the last like month, like
yeah. So
5 times.
Brunson's like, all right, I'll let you do it. This is
And
what you
then
want.
guess what? Now they're now they're doubling in the paint. Guess what? Jalen Brunson goes off for 55 points in overtime against the Wizards, and Mikal Bridges' shot works again. He had 40 points on Christmas in a great game against the Spurs. Like now the Knicks are kind of clicking. But I want to go back to something you said about like what's the missing piece when you talk about the Kings. The missing it never changes. This is the funniest thing about man, the game has changed. Man, the game is worse. Man, the offenses are worse. Adam, the strategy never changes. The missing piece is always defense. And I noticed when the Knicks went to Oklahoma City, it looked like the Oklahoma City Thunder were playing better defense than the Knicks, and that's why the Thunder won down the stretch. Now there are teams that offensively are just better. The Celtics went to Houston and just rained threes on them. Sometimes you can't do nothing about that.
You're going to get the threes, but you need the defense to make those shots harder and then get the rebounds and the hustle to push it.
And the Thunder fit that perfectly. Yep.
And like we said, DeRozan has he's sort of smushed Keegan Murray's shoes, and that isn't working as good. And well, the Kings are just, they need to make a deal. Minnesota needs to make a deal. And it's funny, we said that in the last episode, then all of a sudden the deal was we're going to fire a coach. It's like, I don't think that was the main issue, but
there was one other deal. It involved the Lakers. They dumped D'Angelo Russell. I talked to you in the last show about how I saw a moment where Russell on a high ball screen just chucked a shot, and Anthony Davis kind of gave him the death stare. I mean, if there's one thing the De'Aaron Fox situation does prove is like, look, you can piss off coaches, you can talk crap about owners all day long. Don't piss off the star players. If the star players turn on you, even if you're a teammate, you are gone. And I think what happened is they had that situation, and also remember they had that early weird press conference where JJ Redick was asked about why he subbed Russell so early, and he said he had some dumb. What did he say? I think he said something like, "I didn't like his level of compete," which isn't a. That's not, Adam. That's not a noun. Compete is not a noun. It's a verb. But level of compete. Okay. Anyways, clearly Redick gave up on Russ. So we knew he was getting shipped, but he got shipped to the Nets, and they got Dorian Finney-Smith, who has a player option, and Shake Milton. I haven't really seen him in the lineup yet, but I have to assume the Lakers will be better from this.
Well, the Lakers needed some backup to. They don't have any size on the bench, so you have Hachimura, Davis, and LeBron out there.
Coming back anytime soon.
Vanderbilt who has surgery on both their feet. Like, that's just bizarre to.
But yeah, Finney Smith fits a need. And LeBron's played okay.
He fits the need. You got Reeves and Christie and Connect, who can be. Plus, LeBron's usually de facto point guard half the time anyway. So
they're hovering around 4 seed, but that's because there's literally
everybody's hovering around the 4 seed.
Literally 5 teams within a game of one another.
Yeah, if you're not hovering around the 4 seed, you're hovering around the 9 because you lost 2 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And that's. Yes.
I did enjoy this one Godzilla versus Kong game. That's what I want to call these games now when we have these unicorn big men and they go one-on-one and they eat the box scores on both sides. Wembanyama versus Jokic, and they just destroyed each other. But the Spurs won the game. But yeah, like we're seeing a lot of these games where just the big guys are just unstoppable, and the teams match up wise because of the spacing. They just don't know how to game plan against them.
Either way, with all that, hopefully we have some movement in the trade deadline, which we got about a month away now.
Yeah, well, we're a week away from the contracts being guaranteed. That's when it starts. I think it's January 10th.
But let's hope for some excitement, because a lot of teams need to do something one way or another. So let's sit back. Let's watch some basketball.
Feel like the excitement on the court has been lacking.
We will get to the next episode. Let's just.
I've enjoyed some things. I've enjoyed some of the performances.
We've been negative enough with enough teams this episode. We'll just save that one for the next time and all that.
We had 2 guys get a triple-double on the same team in the same game. Russell Westbrook and Nikola Jokic. I think that's only happened 10 times in history. I mean, we have to celebrate.
Yeah, and did they almost lose?
They did. They almost lost that game. It was against the Jazz.
That's the problem. that's Denver in a nutshell. Okay, anything? Any New Year's resolutions for you with NBA or
NBA related? That's a really good question. I didn't think about it, but I'll make one up right now. I want to see. I want to see more fights. I want to see more fights. Does that make sense? Am I?
So you want to see like emotion back in the game and edginess, not like weird Indiana Detroit brawl fights. Like
the Miami Houston one was not necessarily that. That was more of a beef. But Miami and Houston, I think, are now getting a reputation for being tough, gritty teams, and we need more tough, gritty teams.
Okay.
Or emotion. That's probably about. I just want people to care. I just want the players to care more. Even in the playoffs, I feel like they're going through the motions sometimes when they know they're getting blown out, and it's just like, come on, like you got to show some fight. You got to show some heart. There is one thing I don't like. I refuse to believe that the Thunder are on a 14-game winning streak. They lost in Las Vegas. I understand that game didn't count to their record, but that's bullshit.
It
That
doesn't
is
count.
not. No, it does count. That's a loss. You can't tell me it didn't happen, Adam. I saw it on national television.
You were one of the few that saw it and probably cared
Yeah,
about it.
that's right around the college football playoff, right?
All right. Well, we'll be back in a few weeks then. So for Andrew Riche, I am Adam Murray. Have a good one.